Hello and welcome to a rough demo of a virtual reality mod that I've been working on for Legend of Grimrock 2. I've edited together a bunch of clips of me playing the game, and now I'm just going to go through and talk over them. First of all, you notice that I was using you could see my hands. You have two controllers, one in each hand, and the buttons represent the different actions you can do with the hands. Basically, you can use your hand just like a mouse pointer, clicking on things in 3D space and 2D space. There's also a couple of other buttons to show things like the map and resting and the menus. And here's the map mode, and you can control that with the hand controllers as well. Basically, the entire game is playable with the hand as a mouse cursor, a thumbstick for walking around, and a few choice buttons for resting and menus and such. By the way, there's some water you can see there, the reflections of water. That took me a little bit of time to get right. I'm still tweaking it, but it's pretty good now. Here I am attacking things and the way you do in the 2D game using the UI. But in addition to those controls, I've added the non-movement thumbstick allows you to select a character, and that's what I'm doing right now, selecting a character. And with that character selected, you can do a couple things. Primarily, you could do action 1 and 2. The left and right hand, which is mostly for combat and that sort of thing. And here I am about to show you doing the same thing with the wizard to get rid of that bramble. And I'm about to get into my first combat here. You can see I'm primarily going to be using the non-movement thumbstick to select characters and attack with them. You'll notice that the wizard, I still have to draw the spells out, the runes out with the UI, and that's fine. It's not that bad. It's not that hard. After this combat ends, I'm going to do a couple of more attacks on some bushes to show you attacking with the UI, and then with the thumbstick. So this is with the UI, and then here's with the thumbstick to select the character, and then attack with your trigger button and your grip button. Notice I'm about to move there you go. You notice the border as I moved that UI. I moved it out of the way to get access to some things. The entire UI is on one big rectangle, and you can move that around, you can size that. I'll show you more of that later on. But the reason why I made the entire screen's UI on one rectangle rather than breaking it up, and here you can see I'm interacting with the 2D and 3D world a little bit. The reason why I did that was because a lot of mods in Legend of Grimrock 2 have custom user interfaces. Here I am about to rest, and I rested longer than I intended to, so when I wake up it's nighttime. And you know, it's kind of awe-inspiring when you first get into VR just how amazing the 3D of the worlds. Everything feels real and feels big. You kind of get used to it after a while, but just coming into it at night is pretty cool. Anyway, the reason why I made the entire UI in one big rectangle was because a lot of mods have custom user interface design, and I don't know what they're going to be doing. So rather than trying to break it up and have complicated, I just have one big rectangle for all the UI, and I'll show you an example of that later with a game called Atlantis something. I don't quite remember. Here's a big extended example of me in combat. Again, I'm using the thumbstick to select the characters and then attack with them. Yeah. And again, you'll notice that in this case it's pretty easy. The wizard's only spell is Fireball, which is like is about the simplest rune you can make. When you get into more complicated runes, I don't actually show that at all, but it's not that bad again. Yeah. So yeah, there's a couple things I haven't shown. Some sort of side features, like you can, if you grip and use the trigger button, you can like pick things up one at a time. If you have like a pile of things like multiple arrows, you can pick up one arrow at a time with that and that sort of thing. But oh yeah, and power attacks. none of my characters have power attacks this early in the game, but they work with the thumbstick just like you'd expect. So if you hold down the trigger button long enough, the power attack will kick in, and it'll sort of. And the guy's picture in the HUD for the on the thumbstick on your hand shows the power attack. It like turns blue. It tints blue. And later on, I'll show you like when you die. Basically, there's a HUD on your hand as you're using the thumbstick to select the characters, and it shows the health of characters, and it shows whether they're dead and that sort of thing. And I really like being able to look around and things. Here, I'm using the map mode again to show where I start and where I end up with this this teleporter. Currently, there's no way to type in text into the map. I'm probably going to be adding a virtual keyboard that you can type text with, but that's that's definitely a polished feature. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Oh yeah, this is one thing I wanted to show. So you can, when you're dropping things, you could drop them or you could throw them. In the game, it depends. It's based on where you place the item. In virtual reality, it's based on the angle of your hand when you let go of them. So if you're pointing down, it drops it. If you're pointing across, then it throws it. I've cut forward to another combat. This is me using the thumbstick to select the characters and then attack with them. Oh yeah, and one thing is you can use the thumbstick to turn your character and move forward and that sort of thing. You can also turn in real life, and your character will turn in the game to compensate. Now, it's not the obvious solution is just to make it so that when you're based on the direction you're facing, that's the way that you're going to be basically facing in the game. It's a little bit more complicated than that because I found that just didn't work very well. So basically, and you'll see this in a minute, but you face in one direction until you basically turn all the way to another direction, and then you snap to that direction. Yeah, in a minute you should be able to see that. I kind of demonstrate it in the video. Sometime. Yeah, here you go. You can see it's not like snapping until I go all the way there. And that's important because the way it was before is you could like turn different directions and it would turn your character that way. And that means that if you look in some place, all of a sudden your character is turning a different direction. That just didn't really work very well. Especially when you're working with the UI, it gets really bad because the UI snaps to whatever direction you're facing. Okay, here's a demonstration of the settings for VR. The main setting is something you probably have noticed. It's called Vignette. It's good for virtual reality to prevent you from getting sick, which can happen if you're not good with it. So here's Vignette turned all the way up. So as you're walking around, as you're moving, there's like a big hole that gets smaller and like lets you see less and less of the screen, and that basically prevents you from getting... It's essentially the same as being car sick, but virtual reality sick. It's honestly, the vignette looks really intense when you're looking at it in this 2D video, but in the game it's not that visible. Okay, I'm about to show you a fan mission called Eye of the Atlantis. It's a really cool mission that has a lot of custom UI. Here it is. In this case, I'm showing you the introduction narration. And this is the reason why I have one big rectangle for all of the screen's UI. It's because there's no way I could anticipate the different UIs that different custom missions will come up with. Incidentally, I can read that text in virtual reality even though you can't read it in the video. The problem is that that virtual reality requires not only a large resolution, larger than is typically available in Grimrock, but also a non-standard aspect ratio. It's pretty much square. And so one of the things that it does is it scales the UI to match whatever resolution it's showing. And there's a standard scaling that the Grimrock UI uses. But not all the custom missions, not all the fan missions adhere to that custom scaling. So in that case, that user interface that that fan mission had was a lot smaller than the Grimrock's user interface. So moving on, in this clip, what I'm doing is I'm actually killing off characters. I want to show you the combat HUD. It shows up on my hand when I'm pushing on the thumbstick. And if somebody, in this case, yep, the wizard is dead, so it shows up as a red skull. So that's all the clips I've got for today. I should be able to bring this into closed beta in a week or two, which means giving it to beta testers to try out. I'm taking volunteers now for anyone who's interested in playing with this and providing detailed feedback for fixes and suggestions. If you're interested, then let me know. You can either do that in the comments or, better yet, on the Grimrock Discord server. Thanks for watching to the end, and I hope you enjoyed it.